my dear learners, for this course on turbo machines. From today's lecture, we are starting the final module of our discussion, that is module 5. In module 5, we will be discussing on centrifugal pumps and centrifugal compressors. First, let us discuss centrifugal pump. Coming for theoretical concepts of centrifugal pump, in today's lecture, we are going to discuss classification of pumps and centrifugal pumps, parts of centrifugal pumps, different types of heads in centrifugal pumps, different types of efficiencies, multi-staging in centrifugal pump, what do you mean by priming, what do you mean by cavitation, what is the meaning of net positive suction head, and expression for minimum starting speed, and also I am going to derive expression for pressure rise in centrifugal pump. Let us discuss one by one. Coming for classification of pumps. Pumps are broadly classified as axial flow pumps, centrifugal pumps and mixed flow pumps. These centrifugal pumps will have radial entry and normally have radial discharge and the water flows outwards. Whenever you see the word centrifugal, always the water enters radially. Hence, alpha 1 is always equal to 0 for centrifugal pumps. When water enters radially, the entry velocity of water, that is V1, will be equal to Vf1. Hence, there is no vril velocity in the inlet. That is, tangential component of absolute velocity will be equal to 0 at inlet for centrifugal pumps. Hence, the inlet velocity triangle is a right angle triangle. This we already discussed in our module 2 when we conducted general analysis of turbo machines, where I have explained theoretical head capacity relationship for centrifugal pump and compressors. Next, coming for classification under centrifugal pump, the centrifugal pumps are classified as backward weighing centrifugal pump, radial weighing centrifugal pump and forward curved weighing centrifugal pump. For backward curved weighing centrifugal pump, the vanes are curved backward or to the direction opposite to the direction of rotation. Whereas for radial weighing centrifugal pump, the blade angle is 90 degree. Whereas for forward curved weighing centrifugal pump, the discharge blade angle, that is beta 2, will be greater than 90 degree and they will be curved in the direction of rotation of the impeller. Coming for broad classification, pumps are classified as axial flow, centrifugal and mixed flow pumps, whereas centrifugal pumps are classified as backward curved weighing, radial weighing and forward curved weighing centrifugal pumps. Next, moving for parts of centrifugal pump, the major parts of centrifugal pumps are impeller, diffuser and casing. The very important part is impeller. So impeller is where the pressure rise takes place. So through the impeller, the low pressure fluid will gain high pressure and will be lifted from sump to tank. Whereas the diffusers are nothing but the guide vanes. They are fixed. They can also be called as stator, stationary element of an centrifugal pump. In case of turbines, the stationary element is nozzle. In case of centrifugal pumps, the stator is nothing but diffuser. They will direct the liquid to the impeller. Impeller is nothing but the vanes or blades mounted on the shaft of the centrifugal pump. So therefore, the important parts are impeller or vanes which are mounted on the shaft. They are nothing but the blades to which the water will be guided through the guide vanes, which are termed as diffusers. So around this we will be having a casing. The casing might be have different types. There are many types of casings. Always the casing will have divergent sections towards the delivery pipe. If I take the casing, so the outer part, it will be diverging section connecting the delivery pipe. This is because of the reason the pressure rise, it ensures that pressure rise takes place in the direction of flow. So always when you drop casing, if water flows like this outward, the cross section area here should be less and here should be more, which I have drawn contradictory to it. So actually the cross section area at delivery should be high compared to the area here. So casing will be of increasing area connecting to the delivery pipe, which ensures that pressure rise is taking place. So this is about parts of centrifugal pump, that is impeller, diffuser and casing. Next, moving ahead, coming for different types of heads of centrifugal pump. So I have drawn the pictorial view which represents the different types of heads for better understanding. So if you observe, the four important types of heads of centrifugal pumps are coming for heads of centrifugal pump. The four important heads are suction head, which is denoted by small letter h suffix s. Then we have delivery head, h suffix d. Then we have static head, it is capital H suffix s, and later we have manometric head. It is denoted by H suffix m. So now coming for suction head is defined as the vertical distance measured from sump level, that is top level of water in the sump, to the axis of the pump. Whereas delivery head is defined as the vertical height from axis of the pump to the delivery tank level, that is the total height of the tank. So to the top level of the tank, if you measure the vertical distance from the central axis of the pump, that will give you the delivery head. So if I add both delivery head plus suction head, it will give us the static head. So therefore static head is sum of suction head plus delivery head. Next comes the manometric head. Manometric head is the total head against which the pump is working. Can also be expressed with the help of Euler's head. That is, we already derived Euler's equation for energy transfer. Coming for centrifugal pump, which is a power absorbing turbo machine, the Euler's equation for energy transfer will be given as VU2 U2 by GC. This is because of the reason VU1 is 0 for centrifugal pumps because it has radial entry, that is alpha 1 is equal to 90 degree, hence VU1 is equal to 0 for centrifugal pumps. Hence the Euler's equation for energy transfer will be VU2 U2 by GC. In terms of head form, the Euler's equation can be expressed in terms of meters as work done per kg divided by acceleration due to gravity. So therefore head form of Euler's equation is VU2 U2 by G for centrifugal pumps, where G is acceleration due to gravity, which is 9.81 meters per second square. Now I know the Euler's head, that is VU2 U2 by G. This manometric head can be expressed as Euler's head minus losses. If I remove the losses from the Euler's head, I can determine what is the manometric head. So Euler's head is nothing but the head imparted by the pump to the fluid. That is, it will be working from sump to the delivery tank, where in which we won't consider the losses. So therefore, head imparted by the impeller to the fluid is Euler's head. If I subtract losses from the Euler's head, I will get the manometric head. So this is the relationship between manometric head and Euler's head. So manometric head is the total head against which the pump is working. That is, manometric head is the head within which the pump is working, considering the losses happening due to friction and bending, that is minor losses as well as the major losses. So the relationship between Euler's head and manometric head is that manometric head is equal to Euler's head minus losses. So now coming for manometric head, I can write it as manometric head is equal to head of Euler's equation minus losses. Next, moving ahead for different types of efficiencies. Coming for different types of efficiencies, first one is mechanical efficiency. For pumps, we supply the power from the external source or prime mover to the shaft. So this shaft will drive the impeller or blades mounted on the shaft. So therefore, mechanical efficiency is defined as impeller power divided by shaft power. So impeller power is already known to us, that is mass flow rate rho q, mass flow rate m dot rho q into impeller work done per kg, that is VU2 U2 by GC. I'll substitute the value of GC as unity divided by shaft power. So this is the expression for mechanical efficiency. Mechanical efficiency is defined as impeller power by shaft power, whereas impeller power is defined as mass flow rate into work done per kg. This you people already know. So mass flow rate is density into discharge. Rho Q, mass flow rate m dot into work done per kg is VU2 U2 by GC, where the value of GC is 1. If I divide it by shaft power, I will get the mechanical efficiency. Using this, I can, if I know mechanical efficiency, I can find what is the power required to drive the pump, that is shaft power. Next, moving for the second one. So we are supplying the power to the shaft will drive the impeller which is mounted on it. Now from the impeller, the pressure rise will take place to the fluid. So therefore next is power transmission from impellers to working fluid, that is water. So therefore next is manometric efficiency or hydraulic efficiency. Manometric efficiency or hydraulic efficiency. Manometric or hydraulic efficiency can be defined as hydraulic power divided by impeller power. Hydraulic power is known to us, that is rho q GH, that is manometric head GHM, divided by impeller power is rho q VU2 U2. So if I simplify, I will get the manometric efficiency as GHM divided by VU2 U2. VU2 U2. So this is the expression for manometric or hydraulic efficiency. Next we have volumetric efficiency. Always we will consider the volumetric efficiency as 100% if not specified. If it is not specified anywhere, we will take it as 100% during conducting analysis of centrifugal pumps, whereas volumetric efficiency is defined as eta V is equal to actual discharge by theoretical discharge. That is, the volumetric efficiency is actual water delivered through the delivery pipe to the actual water entering the impeller from the suction pipe. That is, actual volume of water delivered through the delivery pipe divided by actual water, amount of water entering the impeller through the suction pipe. So therefore this is equal to amount of water delivered through the delivery pipe divided by amount of water delivered through the delivery pipe plus losses. That is this amount of water lost. So for centrifugal pump we can define it as amount of water delivered through the delivery pipe to the amount of water entering the impeller through the suction pipe. So now finally we have overall efficiency. Overall efficiency is defined as hydraulic power to the shaft power. If I multiply and divide by impeller power, hydraulic power by impeller power will give us manometric efficiency, impeller power by shaft power will give us mechanical efficiency. If I multiply and divide by impeller power and rearranging the terms, I will get the answer as hydraulic power by impeller power as manometric efficiency, impeller power by shaft power as mechanical efficiency. If the volumetric efficiency is not equal to 100% if it is specified, I should consider volumetric efficiency also to calculate the overall efficiency. So this is about the various efficiencies of centrifugal pump and various heads of centrifugal pump. Now if I move next for multi-staging, multi-staging is nothing but using of multiple pumps connected in series or parallel. If I connect multiple pumps in series, then I will get larger head. Head developed will be high. For pumps in series, if I connect pumps in series, that is exit of one pump is connected to the inlet of another pump. That is output of impeller of one pump is connected to the inlet of another pump. So if I do that, connecting the outlet of one pump to the inlet of another, connecting outlet of second to the inlet of third, if I keep on doing that, if I connect them in series, I will get the head will be increasing. So therefore, for pumps in series, the total head will be number of stages into manometric head of one pump, assuming that head developed by all the pumps are same. So if you want high head, you should connect the pumps in series. On the other hand, if I connect pumps in parallel, then I will get high discharge. Pumps in parallel are recommended when you want high discharge. In this case, many number of pumps are connected for the same sump. They lift water from the same sump, and here the amount of discharge, the total discharge will be number of stages into discharge of one pump, assuming that discharge in all the pumps are same. So therefore, if you want high discharge, you should go for pumps in parallel. If you want high head, then you go for pumps in series. So this is about multi-staging of centrifugal pumps. Let me pause this video for a while so that you people can note it down. Later we will move forward. Next, moving forward, the next topic is priming. Priming in centrifugal pumps are done whenever we have air gaps inside the pump. Whenever we have an air gap or blockage of air inside the pump, then pump won't works. Now to get rid of this, we should pour water from the delivery pipe. We should fill the delivery pipe completely from the water manually, and we should move this air gap out of the impeller section where the pressure rise takes place. Then only pump will start once again. So this phenomena to get rid of air blocks happening inside the centrifugal pump is termed as priming. Priming in centrifugal pump is done to remove the air gaps or air blockages in the working line. Next, coming for cavitation. So cavitation is a phenomena wherein which the pressure in the suction side drops below the vapor pressure, then water starts boiling. This water which is boiling with very high velocity move towards the very low pressure side on the impeller and hits the surface of the impeller. Impellers are nothing but the vanes or blades. Due to this high velocity impact of water bubbles, the cavitation or corrosion of the blades or impeller surface will takes place. This phenomenon is termed as cavitation. Whenever the suction side pressure drops below the vapor pressure, then water starts boiling. Next, moving for the next topic, that is net positive suction head. So this is the head required in the suction side to avoid cavitation, because cavitation takes place only in the suction side of the centrifugal pump. So therefore, the minimum head required to avoid cavitation is termed as net positive suction head. So if I note down the net positive suction head, the net positive suction head NPSH will gives us at what vertical height the axis of the pump should locate from the sump water level, which is nothing but it indicates the suction head required to avoid cavitation. So net positive suction head calculation will gives us at what height from the sump level the axis of this pump should be mounted to avoid cavitation. So in terms of meter, the net positive suction rate is given by pressure in the suction side divided by rho g plus velocity of the working fluid in the suction pipe square by 2g minus vapor pressure by rho g. Here Ts is pressure in suction pipe or suction side, Vs is velocity of water in suction pipe, and P suffix Vp is vapor pressure. So you'll get the answer in meters. So using this expression you can find what is the heat required to avoid cavitation. Next, moving further, we have expression for minimum starting speed. Whenever you start the centrifugal pump, it don't pumps the water. It don't start working immediately. This is because of the reason the pressure rise in the impeller should be greater than or equal to manometric head. Then only the water starts get pumped. So therefore, the condition to start the pump or start pumping the water is that the pressure in the impeller should be greater than or equal to manometric head. Then only the pump starts pumping water. So therefore, using that condition, that is minimum starting speed, that is the pump starts pumping water if and only if the pressure in the impeller is greater than or equal to manometric head. Using this condition, I can find what is the minimum starting speed for a centrifugal pump. That is, if I derive the expression for minimum starting speed using this condition, we have u2 square minus u1 square by 2g should be equal to hm. This is a minimum condition to centrifugal pump to start pumping water. So now we know the value of u2 and u1. If I substitute and solve, I will get u2 as pi d2 square pi dm by 60. In terms of RPM, I am writing where n is in RPM square minus pi d1 n by 60 whole square divided by 2g is equal to hm. Now I should find the minimum speed. So therefore, n minimum will be n minimum square will be pi square by 60 square into 2. Square into 2g common, I left out with d2 square minus d1 square, which is equal to hm. So therefore, n minimum will be square root of square into hm divided by pi square into d2 square minus d1 square. So therefore, minimum starting speed will be 60 by pi into root of 2g hm by d2 square minus d1 square rpm. So this is the expression for minimum starting speed. If I use manometric efficiency, then in terms of manometric efficiency, we have eta manometric is equal to GHM by VU2. Just now I have explained this manometric efficiency. I can find the value of Hm. So Hm will be eta mano into VU2U2 by G. So therefore, substituting this in equation 1, I will get substituting Hm in equation 1, I will get n minimum square into pi square by 60 square into 2g of d2 square minus d1 square is equal to eta mano by g into VU2 U2. That is n minimum square is equal to, if I simplify further, I will get 60 square by pi square into 2g by g into eta mano into VU2. U2 can be written as pi d2 n by 60 whole divided by d2 square minus d1 square. I substitute for u2 as pi d2 n by 60. So therefore n square and n will get cancelled. So this 60 and 60 square will get cancelled. This pi and this pi square will get cancelled. This g and g will get cancelled. So therefore n minimum will be 120 by pi into eta mano into VU2 d2 divided by d2 square minus d1 square. So minimum starting speed will be manometric efficiency into 120 VU2 d2 divided by pi times d2 square minus d1 square. So this is the expression in terms of manometric efficiency and this is the expression in terms of manometric head. So both will give you the answer in RPM. So this is the expression for minimum starting speed. Let me pause this video for a while so that people can copy it down. Later we will move for the final topic of today's lecture, that is expression for pressure rise. Next, moving for the final topic, that is expression for pressure rise, or prove that P2 minus P1 by rho g is equal to 1 by 2g of Vf1 square plus U2 square minus Vf2 square cosecant square beta 2. So I want to prove this expression. Let us prove it. J, that is expression for pressure rise. Now let us consider a centrifugal pump like this. So we have suction side from the sump. Here we have suction pressure. Let us take it as P1, and we have delivery also, and this side we have delivery pressure. Let us take it as P2. Now for centrifugal pump, if I write the velocity triangle, general velocity triangle for power absorbers for centrifugal pump, as I said, the immediate velocity triangle is right angle triangle with water enters radially, hence V1 is equal to Vf1. Here we have beta 1, Vr1 and U1, whereas Vu1 is 0 for centrifugal pumps. Coming for exit, you know the general velocity triangle of power absorbing turbo machines. So recalling it, which I clearly explained in our module 2. So we have, let us say, V2, Vf2, Vr2, this is beta 2, and alpha 2, V2 to Vf2 is Vu2, and from here we have V2. So this you people already know. So this is the velocity triangle for backward curved vanes, which I have explained during our discussion on theoretical head capacity relationship for power absorbing turbo machine, that is centrifugal pump and centrifugal compressors, in module 2, lecture 12, I think 12 or 13. So if you refer that lecture, I have used and explained the different types of velocity triangles for centrifugal pumps, for backward curved vane, radial vane and for forward curved vane. Here we have used the general velocity triangle of power absorbers, and for centrifugal pump you know that alpha 1 is 90 degree, that's all. We got the velocity triangle. Now to derive that expression, let us apply Bernoulli's equation to get the pressure difference. Applying Bernoulli's equation, at section 1 and 2. At section 1 we have pressure P1 by rho g, velocity will be, entry velocity is V1 by 2g, plus we have work done by the impeller, this must be equal to, at the delivery side we have P2 by rho g plus V2 by 2g. So it is V1 square, V is equal to root 2 GH, so H is equal to V square by 2g, correct, square. So plus, I should take the loss, let me neglect the loss. So neglecting the losses, we have this expression. Now substitute and rearrange for the pressure rise. So P2 will be greater and P1 will be lesser. So therefore, if I rearrange, I will get P2 minus P1 by rho g is equal to V1 square by 2g. Now work done by impeller head form is known to us, that is Pu2 U2 by g minus V2 square by 2g. So therefore, further simplification gives us P2 minus P1 by rho g is equal to 1 by 2g into V1 square plus 2 times Vu2 U2 minus V2 square. Now, if you clearly observe, we want to express everything in terms of flow velocity and blade discharge angle beta 2. So therefore, from inlet velocity triangle, we know that V1 square is equal to Vf1 square. Done. Now coming for V2 and Vu2 from exit velocity triangle. So from exit velocity triangle, Vu2 is equal to U2 minus this x. So this x can be written as Vf2 cot beta 2, because cot theta is adjacent by opposite. So therefore adjacent is opposite into cot beta 2. So therefore Vu2 is U2 minus x. X is Vf2 cot beta 2. So therefore Vu2 can be written as U2 minus Vf2 cot beta 2. So Vu2 is done. Next we have V2 square. So therefore V2 square can be written as Vf2 square plus Vu2 square. Vf2 square plus Vu2 square. Now we know what is the value of Vu2. Simplify it. So V2 square is equal to Vf2 square plus U2 minus Vf2 cot beta 2 whole square. So if I simplify, I will get V2 square is equal to Vf2 square plus A square plus B square minus 2AB. Now substitute these in equation number 1 and simplify. Substituting in equation 1, we have P2 minus P1 by rho g is equal to 1 by 2g V1 square. V1 square is Vf1 square plus 2 Vu2 U2. So 2 times Vu2 is U2 minus Vf2 cot beta 2 into U2. 2 Vu2 U2 minus V2 square. Minus V2 square is Vf2 square minus U2 square minus Vf2 square cot square beta 2 plus 2 U2 Vf2 cot beta 2. So now further simplification gives us 1 by 2g Vf1 square plus 2 U2 square 2 U2 U2 plus into minus minus 2 U2 Vf2 cot beta 2 finished minus Vf2 square minus U2 square minus Vf2 square cot square beta 2 plus 2 U2 Vf2 cot beta 2. So this term and this term will get cancelled. 2 U2 square minus U2 square is 1 U2 square. So therefore I will get P2 minus P1 by rho g as 1 by 2g into Vf1 square plus 2 U2 square minus U2 square is U2 square. Now I left out with these two terms. I'll take minus Vf2 square common. If I take Vf2 square common, I'll get 1 plus cot square theta. 1 plus cot square theta is cosecant square theta. So therefore I'll get the answer as cosecant square beta 2. So hence proved. So this is what he has asked. So apart from this, you might also expect the theoretical head capacity relationship for centrifugal pump and centrifugal compressor, which we have already discussed in our module 2, lecture number 12 or 13. So this completes the important theoretical aspects of centrifugal pump. From next lecture, I will discuss the velocity triangle and three digits and take up general problems on analysis of centrifugal pumps. That's all from this lecture. Thank you all.